Now, the Banking Services Ombudsman has raised further worry that the rising number of defaulters may in turn increase the number of creditors instituting legal action for foreclosure or repossession of financed goods. Ombudsman Reana Steyn speaks to us about this. Thank you so much for your time, Reana. Quite a concerning picture for the South African consumer. What stems from the concern and worry that you've raised, particularly at this time at the start of 2023?
Good morning. Yeah, I think nothing that, we've raised is news to the consumers out there. I mean, we can all feel it in our pockets. I think the reason why we just wanted to caution people is to take proactive steps. Because if you wait too long, I mean, you see you've got a financial crisis. You can see you cannot pay all your debts anymore. And your monthly income is just getting less and less, and it's stretched. And you start missing payments. And then eventually, when everything is in a complete mess, you want to ask the bank for assistance. And then sometimes when the bank does not want to assist, the complaints end up in our office, against the bank who doesn't want to assist a consumer who's been skipping payments for months and months. And that is why we need to send this warning. If you see there is going to be a problem in the future, in the next few months, because of these rising interest rates, the petrol, everything just going up, inflation, and you see you're going to have a problem because of all your current expenses and debts versus your income. Make arrangements timelessly while all your accounts are still in good standing. And that, I think, is really the message we want to carry out there.
And what is the scale of complaints brought to the Ombudsman's office telling you about the current dispensation?
Well, at the moment, we do not see a huge number of complaints about the financial crisis yet. I think a lot of those matters are being resolved by the banks and the clients, so it doesn't become a complaint. And I think in other cases, consumers just give up. They do not try and even take action. And then, of course, if there's legal action and repossession of property, movable, immovable, it takes years. It's not something that happens overnight. So we haven't seen a huge increase yet, but it is steadily trickling in. And that is why we thought, rather send a warning to people to take proactive steps before you start defaulting. A bank is much more likely to assist you if you're still a customer in good standing that's been paying all the accounts for years than somebody who's been skipping payments for the past 6 months or a year. Definitely something to look out for.
In this warning that you've issued, there's also advice, and here we are talking about how one approaches their credit in a financial crisis. Let's talk through that element.
Yes, there are a few things that just from our perspective that we've seen and where we can give some, we think, constructive advice. And that is approach a reputable credit provider. Do not turn to loan sharks. There's still a tendency of people to do that because the loan sharks, of course, will give credit easily. They don't ask too many questions, but it will get you into a debt spiral that you cannot get out of. You'll have to keep on borrowing to pay them, and then, of course, eventually it makes everything impossible. So approach your budget very responsibly. Even if you can make your payments now, factor in what's going to happen throughout the year and start making plans. The banks and other credit providers offer restructure agreements. And, for example, debt consolidation. Definitely something that consumers must look into. The debt consolidation, of course, is helpful because if you have a lot of agreements, 7, 8, 9, it's difficult to keep track of who you must pay and when you've paid and what the interest rates are on those different agreements. If you consolidate everything into one loan, often the rate drops and there's just one debit order running off your account. So it's much easier for consumers to budget. So it's not a magic bullet, but it definitely makes life easier, we hear consumers say. Restructuring, as I've mentioned, the banks will sometimes restructure the agreement, put it over a longer period. Yes, you are going to pay more over the full term, but at least your monthly expense now is manageable. Sometimes, if you're a client in very good standing, they will even assist you with a payment holiday, where for a short period, you can maybe arrange with them not to make a payment if there's a very specific set of facts. It is an option that is sometimes available. And then we have things like, surrender of the goods, something that you bought that you simply cannot afford anymore. Rather surrender it than having a judgment taken against you that sits on the credit bureau and against your name. A judgment is valid for 30 years. Rather surrender the goods that you cannot afford. So there are options.
Thank you so much for your insights. That is the Banking Service Ombudsman Reana Steyn speaking to us on the business desk this morning about tough times ahead for South Africans amid the rising cost of living and giving advice in that regard.